3 years. A contract marriage. 30 grand a month, with a $500,000 bonus at the end of the year. Party A and Party B will not share a bedroom. Party B is forbidden from touching, hugging, or kissing Party A. Neither party shall engage in infidelity, flirtation, or suggestive online behavior, and so on. I scanned the 18 clauses of the deeply unequal prenuptial agreement laid out before me, a smirk playing on my lips. This thing was so ridiculous, a dog wouldn't sign it. I did. Money talks. Besides, the other party to this agreement was the angelic heroine of this whole story. My name is Cole Grant, and I'm not from around here. 3 days ago, I was in my dingy studio apartment, eating instant ramen and wondering how I'd cover next month's rent. I went to sleep and woke up here, dropped straight into a blockbuster men's adventure novel I'd read, inhabiting the body of a spoiled rich kid who just happened to share my name. The original Cole was a useless idiot whose only purpose in the story was to be mercilessly humiliated by his brilliant fiancée, Victoria Sterling, before becoming a stepping stone for the actual protagonist's rise to glory. Victoria Sterling, heiress to Port City's largest financial empire, a walking, talking ice queen with a genius-level IQ and supermodel looks. The only thing she cared about was her career, and she considered every man on the planet an incompetent fool. Especially me, her fiancé. Just yesterday, in front of both our families, she'd thrown a termination agreement in my face. Cole, what can you do besides drink and party? A man like you doesn't deserve to stand by my side. Her voice was like chipping ice, every word a frozen dagger. I had to physically restrain myself from laughing out loud. Don't deserve it? Perfect. I signed the papers on the spot and walked out with a flourish, leaving the two families in a state of chaos. I knew the plot of this book like the back of my hand. Getting tangled up with a workaholic powerhouse like Victoria meant a life of corporate warfare and backroom conspiracies. It sounded exhausting. My goal was crystal clear. Use this character's immense fortune to achieve the dream my old life never allowed. The ultimate state of chill. But to chill securely, I needed a shield. So, I sought out the novel's main heroine, Maya Flores. She was Victoria's polar opposite. The Flores family was wealthy, but they were warm, human. Maya was the family princess, raised on kindness and affection. She was sweet, gentle, and possessed a disarming innocence that made her the darling of every reader. Right now, she was sitting across from me, staring at the contract I drafted, her wide eyes filled with pure confusion. Cole, Mr. Grant, are you serious? Us, getting married? I nodded, sinking comfortably into the cafe's plush armchair, and gestured to the document. Call me Cole. Look, the terms are straightforward. It's a marriage in name only. We live our own lives, no interference. You help me deal with my family, and I'll give you $30,000 a month in spending money, plus a $500,000 bonus at the end of the year. 3 years from now, we shake hands and walk away. You get the cash, I get my freedom back. What I didn't tell her was that her family was about to face a minor but stressful liquidity crisis. This money would be a godsend. A blush crept up Maya's cheeks. She bit her lip, clearly wrestling with the decision. She didn't know, and I certainly didn't know, that just outside the coffee shop, parked in a black Bentley, Victoria Sterling was watching our every move. Her best friend, sitting beside her, scoffed. Vicky, look at that loser. The ink on your breakup isn't even dry, and he's already chasing his next mark. And some ditzy-looking girl at that. A leopard can't change its spots. Victoria didn't speak, but her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. In her mind, this was just my pathetic attempt at revenge. She was probably thinking that without her, this ditzy-looking girl was the best I could ever hope to get. Back in the cafe, Maya finally made up her mind. She picked up the pen and signed her name on the line for Party B. Okay, I'll do it. I smiled. Perfect. My new life of absolute leisure was officially underway. You just wait, Victoria. You're about to find out exactly what you threw away. The day after we got hitched, I moved into a villa owned by Maya. It was a gift from her parents for her 21st birthday, but she was too timid to live there alone, so it had sat empty. Now it was our marital home. The moment I stepped inside, I started my renovation project. Get rid of this vase. It's blocking my view of the TV. This couch feels like a rock. Replace it. I want something you sink into, something that consumes you. The kitchen. Actually, just get the whole thing. I want a chef's kitchen. 8 burners, the works. Top of the line, everything. I barked orders at the movers and contractors while scrolling through a tablet, selecting high-end gym equipment I'd already bookmarked. Maya trailed behind me like a startled rabbit, watching me tear apart her perfectly good house. She wanted to object, but didn't dare. Cole, this is all going to be very expensive, isn't it? She asked in a tiny voice. Don't worry about it. It's a drop in the bucket, I said without looking up. Please. The string of zeros in my inherited bank account was long enough to buy this place 10 times over. She murmured in no and fell silent, simply watching as the crew hauled a massive, state-of-the-art gaming pod into the living room. By the end of the day, the villa was transformed. The living room was dominated by an enormous, cloud-like sectional sofa facing a 120-inch high-definition screen. Next to it sat my gaming pod and a custom-built bar, stocked with artisanal spirits. What was once a guest room was now a fully equipped gym. A six-pack and V-cut abs must be maintained at all times. And the formerly quaint, all-American kitchen now resembled the back of a 5-star restaurant. When evening came, I walked into my new kitchen and tied on an apron. Maya followed, her curiosity piqued. Her eyes went wide as she watched me expertly break down a live branzino, my knife skills a blur of motion. You know how to cook. If you want to eat well, you have to do it yourself, I replied casually. I'd spent my last life as a corporate drone. In this one, my only goal was to please my own palate. Half an hour later, a 4-course meal was on the table. Pan-seared branzino with a lemon caper sauce, slow-braised short ribs, a spicy arrabbiata pasta, and a simple but elegant asparagus soup with truffle oil. The aroma filled the entire dining room. Maya cautiously took a bite of the fish. A second later, her eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. This is amazing. She let out a little gasp and started eating like a chipmunk who'd just discovered a hidden treasure, her cheeks puffed out. I poured myself a glass of bourbon, neat, and slowly savored my own cooking. Yeah, this was the life. Maya ate until her face was flushed and a light sheen of sweat had formed on her brow. She looked at me, and her expression was no longer just surprise. There was something else. Admiration. Cole, you're incredible. Just the basics, I said coolly. After dinner, I collapsed onto the new sofa, ready for a gaming session. Maya, after clearing the dishes, hesitated for a moment before creeping over to me. She waved a small hand in front of my face. The contract says no physical contact, she whispered, her cheeks turning a deep shade of crimson. But, can I poke your abs? Just once. Ich glänzt overher. Just like the book said, she had a pure, unadulterated curiosity about beautiful things. I lifted the hem of my t-shirt. Go for it. Her eyes lit up. She reached out a soft, tentative finger and poked one of my abdominal muscles, then snatched her hand back as if she'd been electrocuted, letting out a tiny squeal. Whoa, they're real. Watching her completely lose her composure, I couldn't help it. The corner of my mouth tilted up in a smile. This married life might be more entertaining than I thought. The days of doing nothing always fly by. The next morning, I woke up whenever I felt like it, which happened to be noon. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, warm and lazy. I stretched, feeling every vertebra pop satisfyingly into place. Maya had already left for work. On the dining table was a breakfast she'd prepared and a small note. Cole, I made you a sandwich. Eat up. Your friendly landlady, Maya. Friendly landlady? I chuckled. The girl had a sense of humor. I tossed the sandwich in the trash and headed for the kitchen. My stomach accepted only the finest cuisine. Thank you very much. I had just finished preparing myself some homemade eggs Benedict when my phone rang. It was my right-hand man, Liam Davies. Sir, he began, Project Aegis has completed its initial testing phase. As per your instructions, we anonymously submitted the Phase 1 data to the Pentagon. The response was seismic. They want to meet with our people immediately. Aegis was a global defense system I'd sketched out on a napkin after arriving in this world, using my knowledge of future tech. I tossed the concept to my development team and let them run with it. I yawned. So meet with them. Why are you asking me? Just remember, we're patriotic businessmen. They can have the tech, but they have to pay for it. Not a single cent less. Understood. Also, those renewable energy startups we acquired last month. After integration, their stock value has tripled. Sterling Corp reached out about a partnership, but I rejected them as you instructed. Sterling Corp, Victoria's family company. I picked up a piece of my perfectly poached egg, letting the rich yolk burst in my mouth. Good. You did the right thing, I said through a mouthful of food. From now on, any proposal from the Sterling family, we don't see them, we don't talk to them. Period. Yes, sir. Your foresight is astonishing. This push-pull strategy is sure to have Miss Sterling wrapped around your little finger. Liam's voice on the other end was practically vibrating with excitement. He had clearly imagined an entire 800-episode drama of corporate romance and revenge. I rolled my eyes. There was no strategy. I just didn't want to deal with annoying people. All right, that's enough bootlicking for one day. Don't call me unless it's an emergency. I am Busse. What world-changing project are you working on now, sir? Sleeping. I hung up, and the world was quiet again. What I didn't know was that Maya, who had just come home to grab a file she'd forgotten, had heard every single word of that conversation. She stood frozen in the entryway, car keys still in hand, her mouth slightly agape in disbelief. Aegis? The Pentagon? Stock value tripled? And he'd rejected Sterling Corp? Was this really the trust fund brat the world thought he was? She looked at me, still in my apron, meticulously finishing my brunch, and felt her entire perception of reality begin to crumble. That evening, Maya came home carrying a pink cake box. Cole, I passed by this new dessert shop, and this cake looks so cute. I just had to get it. She placed it on the table, her eyes darting away from mine. I glanced at it. It was from that one bakery in Port City, the one that was all over social media, with a 2-hour line and a limited daily supply. Right? You eat it. I don't like sweets, I said, my eyes glued to the game on my screen. But I can't finish it all by myself, she said, her voice small and a little hurt. Then throw it out, I replied without thinking. The air went still for a few seconds. I felt the sofa dip beside me as Maya sat down, bringing with her a faint, sweet fragrance. She didn't say anything. She just quietly opened the cake box, used a small fork to scoop up a piece, and held it to my lips. Just one bite, please? It's really good, she said, her voice soft and sweet, laced with a hint of pleading I couldn't quite place. I frowned, about to refuse, but then I caught a glimpse of her eyes in my peripheral vision. They were sparkling with anticipation. Fina, consider it part of the rent. I opened my mouth. The light, airy cream and sweet strawberry jam melted on my tongue. The taste was okay. Well, she asked nervously. It's fine, I said flatly, turning my attention back to the game. Oh, she said, sounding a little disappointed. But I didn't see the tiny, triumphant smile that crept onto her face as she turned away, like a kitten who had successfully stolen a treat. She didn't know, and I certainly didn't know, that this scene had been captured by a camera outside the window. Victoria Sterling sat in her car, staring at the photo her private investigator had just sent her. Me, opening my mouth to eat the cake Maya was feeding me. In the picture, the soft lighting caught the angle of my jaw, making me look less like the arrogant slacker she remembered and more gentle, and Maya was looking at me like I was her entire world. Ah, Victoria scoffed, tossing the phone onto the passenger seat. He's really let himself go. Eating cake now. But for some reason, her chest felt tight, as if something precious was slipping through her fingers, little by little. Chapter 4. The charity galas of Port City's elite were always a hotbed for networking and gossip. As the city's newest couple, Maya and I naturally received an invitation. I didn't want to go, but Maya insisted it was hosted by a close family friend, and we couldn't refuse. Fina, I could use a free meal. The moment we walked in, we became the center of attention. I was in a casual blazer and jeans, a stark contrast to the sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. Maya, on the other hand, wore a simple white dress that made her look like an angel who'd accidentally wandered into a mortal affair. Isn't that Cole Grant? Who's that with him? I think it's the youngest florist's daughter. I heard they got married. Seriously? What were the florists thinking, marrying their daughter off to a washout like him? Sure, keep it down. He's still a Grant, washed up or not. The whispers buzzed around us like mosquitoes. I ignored them completely and made a beeline for the buffet. Maya was nervous, her small hand clutching the corner of my jacket. I glanced back at her. Pay them no mind. They're just a bunch of wannabes who've never had a decent meal. With that, I helped myself to a slice of what looked like a perfectly cooked prime rib. Across the room, Victoria Sterling held a glass of red wine. Surrounded by a crowd of ambitious young executives, the undisputed queen of the ball. She saw us. Her eyes swept over me with a look of pure disdain, as if she were looking at something she'd scraped off her shoe. Her friend was right beside her, fanning the flames. Vicky, just look at him. He only comes to these things to stuff his face. So classless. And that Flores girl is just as bad, letting him embarrass her like that. Victoria sipped her wine without a word, but the disgust in her eyes deepened. Just then, some idiot decided to make his way over. It was Todd Braxton, son of some construction magnate. He used to be one of the original Kohl's hangers-on. Before jumping ship, the second Kohl's reputation soured. Well, if it isn't Mr. Grant, Todd sneered, his voice just loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. So what's it like? After getting dumped by Ms. Sterling, you had to settle for a sweet little thing like this. I ignored him, focusing on my prime rib. Seeing that I wasn't taking the bait, Todd grew bolder. He turned to Maya with a greasy smile. Miss Flores, is it? Such a shame. A beautiful flower planted in a pile of manure. You know, if you stick with a loser like Cole, you're in for a rough life. The color drained from Maya's face. Her grip on my jacket tightened. The surrounding guests were all watching, eager for the drama to unfold. No one stepped in. I put down my fork and knife and dabbed my mouth with a napkin. I lifted my eyes and looked at Todd Braxton, my expression unreadable. Are you finished? I asked, my voice calm and even. My placid demeanor seemed to unnerve him, but he puffed out his chest anyway. What? Did I say something wrong? You're just the guy Victoria Sterling kicked to the curb. He didn't get to finish his sentence. A man in a sharp black suit and gold-rimmed glasses suddenly appeared at our side. It was Liam Davies. What was he doing here? Liam didn't even glance at Todd. He walked straight up to me and bowed respectfully. Sir, your lobster has arrived. The chef just finished preparing it. As he spoke, two waiters wheeled over a cart. On it was a massive, golden-brown baked lobster thermidor, steam rising from its shell. The entire ballroom fell silent. Everyone stared, dumbfounded, at the scene unfolding. Sir, Liam Davies, the famously arrogant right hand of the CEO of Apex Dynamics, the hottest tech firm in the country, just called Cole Grant, sir. The blood drained from Todd Braxton's face, leaving it a pasty, sickly white. Only then did Liam seem to notice him. He adjusted his glasses and spoke in a slow, deliberate tone. Ah, you must be Mr. Braxton of Braxton Construction, correct? I seem to recall your company is bidding on that new development project in the South District. What a coincidence. The client for that project happens to be my boss. Thump. Todd Braxton's legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the floor in a heap. I picked up my fork, speared a juicy piece of lobster meat, and held it to Maya's lips. Open up. Maya, still in a daze, opened her mouth and ate the lobster. I looked across the room, my eyes meeting Victoria Sterling's. For the first time, the expression on her face was one I'd never seen before. It wasn't scorn. It wasn't disgust. It was pure, unadulterated shock, and a flicker of utter confusion. Chapter 5 for the rest of the evening. No one dared to approach our table. The way people looked at me had changed completely, from contempt to a mixture of awe and intense curiosity. They whispered amongst themselves, frantically trying to figure out the connection between me and Apex Dynamics. The man who started it all, Liam Davies, had vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving a trail of speculation in his wake. I was perfectly happy with the peace and quiet, and I methodically worked my way through the lobster. Maya sat beside me, nibbling on her food, her eyes darting toward me every few seconds, filled with a million questions. Cole, she finally whispered, unable to contain herself any longer. That company, Apex Dynamics. Oh, that? Just a little side project I invested in for fun, I said with a dismissive wave of my hand. Maya was speechless. A little side project? The tech giant that had come out of nowhere 6 months ago and completely disrupted the industry. With a projected market cap in the hundreds of billions, was just a little side project to him. She looked at me as if I just told her the sky was green. I found her stunned expression amusing and fed her another piece of lobster. Just eat. You think too much. She obediently opened her mouth, but the light in her eyes grew brighter and more intense. From across the room, the sight was a dagger to Victoria's heart. She stood frozen, her fingers gripping her wine glass so tightly they turned white. She didn't believe it. The party boy, the wastrel, the man who knew nothing but excess, how could he possibly be the secret mastermind behind a corporate behemoth? It had to be a trick. Liam Davies must have been asked by the Grant family elders to put on a show, a little piece of theater to help Cole save face. Yes, that had to be it. Victoria took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down, to regain her usual icy composure. She started walking towards us, the sharp clicks of her heels on the marble floor echoing through the silent hall, each step a declaration of her authority. Every eye in the room swiveled back to us. The ex-fiancé confronting her former flame and his new wife. This was far more exciting than any business reveal. Cole Grant. Victoria stood before our table, looking down at me with her signature arrogance. I looked up from my plate, my expression board. Something I can help you with? Don't think that hiring someone to put on a little show changes the fact that you're a failure, she said coldly. I'll find out who's really behind Apex Dynamics. I suggest you stop using these pathetic ploys to get my attention. Her words sent another wave of whispers through the crowd. She had a point. How could Cole Grant possibly be the boss of Apex? Maya's face paled. She opened her mouth to argue, but I placed a hand on hers, stopping her. I looked at Victoria, and a slow smile spread across my face. Victoria, do you really believe that the entire world revolves around you? That everything I do is some desperate attempt to get you to notice me? I stood up. I was a good half-foot taller than her, and the shift in posture immediately gave me the upper hand. You give yourself way too much credit. I leaned in closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. I rejected your company's proposal, not as some strategic move, but for a very simple reason. You're annoying. And another thing, I added, my voice a soft murmur. Don't bother investigating. You won't find anything. What you consider top-level corporate secrets are, to me, nothing more than doodles on a scrap of paper I threw away. With that, I turned away from her stunned face and took Maya's hand. She was still trying to process what had just happened. Let's go home. Where are we going? Maya asked, her voice a little breathless. Home. I'm going to make you a late-night snack. The food here is terrible. I led Maya away, leaving Victoria standing alone in the middle of the room as 100 pairs of eyes stared at her. Her face was a canvas of shifting emotions, shock, humiliation, fury. Annoying? He called her annoying. That single word, more than any insult about her intelligence or her success, struck a nerve deep within her proud soul. Her body began to tremble, not from anger, but from a feeling she had never experienced before. Fear. It was the terrifying realization that something or someone had completely and irrevocably slipped from her control. Chapter 6. Back at the villa, Maya was still in a daze. She sat on the sofa, hugging a throw pillow, just staring at me. Cole, she said suddenly, you were so cool back there. I was at the bar, selecting a bottle for the evening, and her words made me pause. What was cool about it? Just the way you talked to Victoria, she said, waving her hands to illustrate her point. It was like you weren't afraid of her at all. You totally dominated her. In her world, Victoria Sterling was at the top of the food chain. No one dominated her. I smiled and pulled out a bottle of small batch whiskey. Why would I be afraid of her? She was just a character in a book, a pawn of the plot, unable to even control her own destiny. Of course, I couldn't say that out loud. Maya looked at me, her eyes sparkling. So, did you really reject a partnership with Sterling Corp? Yeah, but why? I heard they're one of the most powerful companies in the country. Because, I said, pouring her a tiny glass, your ex-fiancé is even more powerful. I gave her a wink. Try this. It's a nice, smooth bourbon. Maya took the glass and took a tiny sip. Her eyes widened at the complex, sweet, and smoky flavor. A light blush from the alcohol dusted her cheeks, making her look even more adorable. Cole, she said, swinging her feet, I'm starting to think you're nothing like the rumors say. Oh, and what do the rumors say? That you're a playboy. A spoiled, good-for-nothing brat, she said, peeking at me to gauge my reaction. I shrugged. And what do you think now? She thought for a moment, her expression serious. Now, I think you're a really good cook, a really good bartender, a really powerful, and a really, really lazy. Good person. A good person? She was friend-zoning me in my own marriage. I chuckled. Oh, she exclaimed, suddenly remembering something. She dug in her purse and pulled out two small objects. Look, they were two fuzzy keychains, one of a lazy, orange cat and the other of a happy-go-lucky golden retriever. I saw these at a shop today. See this cat? It's so lazy, just like you, she said, handing me the cat keychain. And this one's me. It's for you. I looked down at the goofy golden retriever keychain in my hand, then back at her expectant face. Against my better judgment, I clipped it onto my car keys. When Maya saw what I'd done, she broke into a huge, radiant smile, her eyes curving into little crescent moons. Little did we know, our actual pets had already bonded. I own a profoundly lazy Garfield cat named Porkchop. Maya owned a hyperactive corgi named Stumpy. Right at that moment, in the villa's backyard, Porkchop was lying on his back in the grass, sunbathing in the moonlight. Stumpy was circling him, rolling around, wagging his tail, and occasionally licking Porkchop's face. Porkchop twitched an ear in annoyance, but didn't bother to move. The whole scene was faithfully recorded by the security cameras. Later that night, after I'd sent Maya off to bed, I sat in the living room, scrolling through the latest report from Liam on my tablet. Sir, Todd Braxton's father dragged him over to the office with a pile of expensive gifts, begging for your forgiveness. I had security throw them out. Also, Victoria Sterling has mobilized her family's entire intelligence network to dig into your background. I read the report, a cold smile touching my lips. Let her dig. The breadcrumbs I'd left behind would only lead her down a rabbit hole of shock and despair. I wanted her to watch, with her own two eyes, as the failure she'd cast aside ascended to heights she could never dream of reaching, all while living a blissful life with another woman. That kind of psychological torture was far more satisfying than a simple public humiliation. An idea began to form in my mind. Life was a stage. If I had to put on a show, I might as well make it a blockbuster. Chapter 7. The next day, a new hashtag appeared out of nowhere and shot to the #1 trending spot on Twitter. Cole Grant slept in again. The tweet contained a series of paparazzi photos. In them, I was standing on the villa's balcony in my pajamas, yawning and stretching, my hair a mess. The timestamp was 11:00 a.m. The caption was dripping with sarcasm. The life of a kept man? Grant Industries' heir Cole Grant, after marrying into the Flores family, appears to have embraced a life of leisure. Sources say he sleeps past noon and is being fully supported by his new wife. The comments section exploded. LMAO, this dude is literally living the dream, getting paid to do nothing. I thought he was some kind of secret badass after that gala incident, but I guess he's still just a bum. I feel so bad for Maya Flores. She's a saint for putting up with him. This just proves Victoria Sterling made the right call. She dodged a major bullet. Victoria's fans and paid trolls swarmed the hashtag, flooding it with posts praising her brilliant decision to dump me and mocking my pathetic existence. I lay on the sofa, scrolling through the comments while sipping a freshly squeezed juice Maya had made for me. Cole, aren't you angry? Maya asked, looking at the hateful comments on her own phone. She was so furious on my behalf her cheeks were flushed. Why would I be angry? I countered. They're not wrong. I'd just wake up. Maya was speechless, completely baffled by my logic. But they're being so cruel. It's terrible for your reputation. Can I eat my reputation for breakfast? I tossed my phone aside and closed my eyes. Quiet. I'm trying to relax. Maya stomped her foot in frustration, then furiously started typing, waging a one-woman war against the trolls in the comments. Watching her defend me like that, a strange warmth spread through my chest. This girl was ridiculously, endearingly loyal. But then, something happened that no one could have predicted. When the stock market opened that afternoon, just as everyone expected Apex Dynamics stock to plummet because of its lazy CEO's negative press, the price shot up. It hit the limit up for the day, a sudden, vertical surge. The entire financial world was stunned. The investors were stunned. What the hell is going on? The CEO sleeps all day and the company's stock soars. Is this some kind of next-level market manipulation strategy? I get it. The more the CEO relaxes, the more it proves the company is a perfectly oiled, automated machine that doesn't need his input. It's a sign of absolute strength. Dude above me is a genius. So, him sleeping in is actually a bullish signal. Cole Grant slept in again to the moon. For the sake of our portfolios, sir, please never get out of bed. The narrative flipped in an instant. The hashtag Cole Grant slept in again transformed from a smear campaign into a bizarre stock market meme, a symbol of effortless success and hands-off management. Financial analysts and investment gurus started writing think pieces, analyzing everything from my posture to the brand of my pajamas, try to decode the revolutionary business philosophy behind my horizontal management style. My net worth, because I took a nap, increased by several $billion. Meanwhile, in the top floor office of Sterling Corp, Victoria Sterling stared at the bright green, vertical line on her stock ticker and the absurd analysis trending on Twitter. The expensive fountain pen in her hand snapped in two. Ink stained her fingers, but she didn't even notice. All the color had drained from her face. Her entire worldview, her belief in hard work, in relentless ambition, in the corporate grind, had just been shattered by me in a way that was so absurd, so utterly illogical, she couldn't comprehend it. She couldn't understand. Why? How could he do this? Her investigators had reported back. The findings confirmed what Liam Davies had said at the gala. The ownership of Apex Dynamics, hidden behind a labyrinth of shell corporations and trusts so complex it made her head spin, ultimately led to one name: Cole Grant. She had lost, utterly and completely, not in business, but in her fundamental understanding of the world. The man she had always looked down upon had, without her noticing, ascended to the clouds. He was now looking down on her from a height she could only dream of reaching, and she, like a fool, was still trying to judge him by her own pathetic standards. A sharp pain lanced through her chest. The room began to spin. The last thing she saw before everything went black was the mocking green of the Apex stock price. Chapter 8. News that Victoria Sterling had been hospitalized for extreme exhaustion spread like wildfire through Port City's high society. That was the official story, anyway. But everyone knew it had something to do with me. Overnight, I became an enigma, a living legend. The way people looked at me changed again. It wasn't just respect anymore. It was a kind of bewildered awe, as if I weren't a person but a walking, talking financial anomaly. I couldn't have cared less. I had a different problem to deal with. One of Maya's old flames had just returned from Europe. His name was Julian Croft, a moderately famous painter and Maya's childhood friend. In the novel, this guy was another minor villain. He was obsessed with Maya and was quickly and easily dispatched by the story's true hero. Now, he had set his sights on me. He cornered us at a gallery opening. "Maya, why would you marry a man like this?" Julian exclaimed, pointing at me with a pained expression. "He has nothing but dirty money and dumb luck. What does he know about art, about a connection of souls? He doesn't deserve you." I yawned. Not another one of these self-righteous clowns. Maya frowned, stepping in front of me protectively. "Julian, don't you dare talk about Cole like that. He's 1,000 times better than you." Better than him? I gently moved Maya aside and faced Julian with a lazy grin. "Where do you get your confidence?" My dismissive attitude infuriated him. "You're just a businessman. You reek of money. What would you know about art? A single one of my paintings can sell for 6 figures. What can you do?" "Ah," I said, nodding. "So, you want to compare bank accounts?" That's not what I meant. I'm talking about artistic merit." Julian's face was beet red. "Fine, let's talk art." I glanced around the gallery and pointed to the exhibition's centerpiece. "That one, Whispers of a Neon Sky. What do you think of it?" Julian immediately puffed out his chest, back on familiar ground. "That piece is by the contemporary master, Rousseau. His use of post-impressionist techniques to convey urban alienation is..." He launched into a long-winded analysis, throwing around a bunch of jargon I couldn't be bothered to understand. I waited until he was done. "Finished? Good. Now it's my turn." I walked up to the painting and studied it for a moment. The composition is a mess, the colors are garish, and the use of light is a complete disaster. He's just using the post-impressionist label to cover up his lack of fundamental skill. This painting, in my opinion, is worthless. A wave of gasps went through the room. Julian looked at me like I had just blasphemed. What do you know? How dare you criticize the work of a master like Rousseau? The gallery's curator hurried over, his face grim. Sir, I must ask you to watch your tone. I ignored them both, took out my phone, and dialed a number. Hey, Rousseau, it's me. Some people here are calling your latest piece a masterpiece. An old, excited voice crackled from the other end. Mr. Grant, is it you? Did you see the little trifle I sent over for the exhibition? I put the call on speaker. Yeah, I saw it. What is this garbage? You're getting sloppy in your old age. Did you forget everything I taught you about chiaroscuro? Yes, you're absolutely right. I haven't been feeling well lately, and that piece is truly my worst work in years. I'll have them take it down at once. I'm so sorry it had to offend your eyes. The gallery was dead silent. Everyone stared at the phone in my hand, as if it were a holy relic. Rousseau, the reclusive, legendary artist whose paintings sold for millions, was being scolded like a schoolboy. By Cole Grant? The color of Julian Croft's face had gone from red to a sickly, corpse-like gray. His proudest achievements, the very foundation of his artistic ego, had just been demolished in front of the man he despised. I hung up the phone and patted Julian on the shoulder. Kid, here's a piece of advice. Never challenge a professional in their field of expertise with your little hobby. With that, I took the hand of the completely petrified Maya and walked out. I wasn't a fan of playing the hero. I much preferred using my money and my skills to grind my opponent's ego into dust. Now, that was satisfying. Chapter 9. After the gallery incident, Maya started looking at me like I was some kind of omnipotent god. She was practically glued to my side, a clingy little kitten. Cole, how many other secrets are you hiding from me? She asked, shaking my arm, her eyes full of stars. Her shaking was making me dizzy. If you keep that up, you're not getting dinner tonight. She immediately let go and sat up straight, hands folded neatly in her lap like a well-behaved schoolgirl. I was beginning to realize that the key to managing this girl was through her stomach. Life returned to its peaceful rhythm. I continued my grand project of ultimate relaxation, perfecting recipes, hitting the gym, and occasionally giving Liam Davies some pointers as I watched my company's stock price climb ever higher. As for Victoria Sterling, she had vanished from public life after her hospital stay. I figured she needed some time to rebuild her shattered reality. I didn't give her much thought. She was a ghost from a past that wasn't even mine. Until one day, I was in the garden, tending to the small vegetable patch I'd started, when a familiar black Bentley pulled up to the front gate. Victoria stepped out of the car. She had lost weight, and her face was still pale, but the icy aura she used to project had softened. She was wearing simple, casual clothes instead of her usual power suit. She just stood there by the gate, watching me. I was in a pair of old shorts, a white tank top, and flip-flops, holding a small trowel I'd been using to weed my tomato plants. This version of me didn't match the failure she remembered, nor did it align with the secret tycoon her investigation had uncovered. Her expression was a complex mix of confusion, pain, and something else I couldn't quite decipher. Maya came running out of the house. The moment she saw Victoria, she put herself between us, like a mother hen protecting her chick. What do you want? Victoria's gaze went past Maya and landed on me. Can I talk to you alone? She asked, her voice raspy. I put down my trowel and dusted the dirt off my hands. There's no need, I said coolly. We have nothing to talk about. Victoria flinched as if I'd struck her. Her eyes instantly welled up with tears. Cole, I know I was wrong before, she said, biting her lip, all her pride stripped away. I just wanted to ask, is there still a chance for us? There it was, the moment I had been waiting for. The climax of the ex-girlfriend's regret subplot. Too bad I wasn't the original hero of this story. I felt nothing for her. I looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. Victoria, have you forgotten? I'm a married man. I reached out and pulled the little guard dog in front of me in my arms. Maya's body tensed for a second, then relaxed into my embrace. She rested her head on my chest, her face turning a bright shade of pink as she secretly nuzzled against me. This girl never missed an opportunity. Allow me to introduce you. I said, turning to Victoria with a brilliant smile. My wife, Maya. The word wife was like a knife twisting in Victoria's heart. The last bit of color drained from her face, leaving it ashen. She looked at us, at our intimate embrace, at the undisguised happiness and trust in Maya's eyes, at the warmth in my own gaze, a warmth she had never received. And in that moment, she finally understood. She hadn't just lost a fiancé. She had lost the best man in the world, a man who could have been hers, and a life of happiness that had once been within her grasp. A single, silent tear traced a path down her cheek. This was what I wanted. Not her apology, not her surrender. I wanted this. This agonizing, heart-wrenching, soul-crushing regret. This was the perfect revenge for all her past arrogance and scorn. Chapter 10. Victoria left, looking like a ghost. I watched her go without a shred of emotion. The girl in my arms, however, tilted her head up to look at me, her eyes shining. Cole, you called me your wife. What else would I call you? Your name is on the marriage certificate, I said, letting her go and heading inside to wash my hands. But what about our contract? What contract? I turned back, a look of perfect innocence on my face. Did I sign something like that? I don't remember. Maya froze. A second later, it dawned on her. A tiny whoop of joy escaped her lips, and she launched herself at me like a rocket, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. Cole, you big lazy cat. I love you so much. Lazy cat. Was that my new official title? I shook my head with a helpless smile, letting her hang off me like a koala. Whatever. Let her have her fun. It seemed my life of ultimate relaxation was becoming a lot less boring thanks to this girl. The days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Our feelings for each other deepened with every passing moment. She became my little shadow. When I was working out, she'd sit nearby, handing me water and shamelessly checking me out, muttering things like, wow, those abs. That V-cut. It looks better than the models in the magazines. When I was cooking, she'd pull up a stool and just watch me, her chin resting in her hands, as if I were a work of art. Cole, is there anything you can't do? When you have a palate as picky as mine, you learn. She memorized every little preference I had, that I only drank pour-over coffee, black, that I hated scented candles in the bedroom, that I liked my grapes peeled, and she would quietly, without being asked, make sure everything was just the way I liked it. This feeling of being so completely cared for was new to me, but it wasn't bad. And I, in turn, grew accustomed to her vibrant, warm presence in my life. She was afraid of the dark, so I had motion-activated nightlights installed throughout the house. She loved stargazing, so I bought a research-grade telescope and spent an entire night on the rooftop terrace with her, watching a meteor shower. She mentioned offhandedly that she'd like to go to the beach, and the next day, my private jet was waiting on the tarmac, ready to fly her to the most beautiful private island in the world. Liam's official comment on the matter was, "Sir, you're no longer just relaxing. You're setting a new Olympic standard for how to spoil your wife." I ignored him. Who I spoiled was my business. Our official, public debut as a real couple came unexpectedly. The Flores family was hosting a massive party for the patriarch's 80th birthday. As the family's son-in-law, my attendance was mandatory. At the party, there were, of course, a few tactless relatives who thought their age gave them the right to comment on my life. Cole, my boy, I hear you just stay at home all day. A man needs a career, you know, one of Maya's smarmy uncles said, holding his champagne glass like a scepter. Before I could respond, Maya exploded. She snatched the microphone from the MC and marched onto the stage. Everyone, if I could have your attention, on this joyous occasion of my grandfather's birthday, I have something very important to announce. The ballroom fell silent. All eyes turned to the normally quiet and gentle Maya Flores. She took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the room before finally landing on me, her expression full of love and determination. I want everyone to know that this man beside me, my husband, Cole Grant, is not some freeloader. He is the most brilliant, most talented, and most amazing person I have ever met. And I love him more than anything. That company you all talk about, Apex Dynamics, it's his. That artistic genius you all admire. Russo, he's Cole's student. That exclusive private island you're all dying to get an invitation to, It was a gift from him to me. He doesn't not work. He just operates on a level so far above all of you that he's earned the right to enjoy his life. And he treats me well, not because he needs anything from me, but because he loves me and he cherishes me. She delivered the entire speech in one breathless rush, her face flushed and her chest heaving. Then, in front of everyone, she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Cole Grant, I love you, and I will spend the rest of my life loving you." Dead silence. You could have heard a pin drop. The relatives were all staring, their jaws on the floor. The uncle who had just been lecturing me looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. I looked at the girl on the stage, the girl who had become so brave for my sake, and my heart clenched. A powerful, searing emotion washed over me. I walked onto the stage, and under the shocked gazes of everyone in the room, I pulled her into my arms, dipped her low, and kissed her with everything I had. To hell with the contract. To hell with relaxing. I just wanted her. The world could praise my successes, but I only ever wanted to bow to her. Chapter 11, it was a long, passionate kiss that felt like it could melt steel. The silence from the crowd below was broken by a few suppressed squeals from the younger cousins. Maya's parents, after their initial shock, broke into wide, approving smiles. The relatives who had been whispering behind my back moments before were now trying to make themselves invisible. When the kiss finally ended, Maya was limp in my arms, her face the color of a ripe tomato. I took the microphone, my voice ringing out clearly through the ballroom. Thank you to my wife for that wonderful confession. I would, however, like to make one small correction. I paused, my eyes finding the smarmy uncle in the crowd. I'm not standing at the peak. I am the peak. And one more thing, I love spoiling my wife. It's my favorite thing to do. If anyone here has a problem with that, they could take it up with my legal team. The room was utterly silent. The uncle's face had turned a deep shade of purple. I smiled satisfied. I put my arm around Maya and led her off the stage through a sea of awestruck faces. From that day on, no one ever dared to question our relationship again. Our love story became the stuff of legend in Port City. As for Victoria Sterling, I heard that after she was discharged from the hospital, she resigned from all her positions at Sterling Corp and moved abroad. She never came back. Perhaps leaving the city that held all her painful memories was the best thing for her. Occasionally, Liam would give me an update. Sir, Miss Sterling anonymously funded a new orphanage in South America. Sir, the only social media account she follows is the one your wife made for her corgi, Stumpy. Sir, someone spotted her in a small town in France. She's learning how to bake. I would listen to these reports without comment. Everyone has to live with the consequences of their choices. Her story was no longer my concern. My story only had one heroine, Maya. Chapter 12, the 3 years stipulated in our contract flew by in the blink of an eye. The contract itself, the document that had once defined our relationship, had been confetti in my office shredder for years. Maya and I had become a single entity, an inseparable pair. Today was the 3rd anniversary of the day we signed that agreement. I rented out an entire amusement park for the day, just for her. That night, a spectacular fireworks display lit up the sky, spelling out our names in glittering colors. Maya sat on a carousel horse, watching the explosions of light, her eyes reflecting the dazzling display. Cole, I feel like I'm dreaming. I stood beside her, gently tucking a stray piece of hair behind her ear. It's not a dream. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I got down on one knee. Maya gasped, her hands flying to her mouth, her eyes instantly filling with tears. Maya Flores, I said, looking up at her with a seriousness I had never shown before. 3 years ago, I tricked you into my life with a contract. It was the single best decision I have ever made. My goal in life used to be to do nothing, to just enjoy myself. But you taught me that the greatest enjoyment in the world is to love and be loved. I love you, not because you're beautiful or because you're kind, but simply because you are you. So I was wondering, would you be willing to tear up that last, invisible contract between us and for real this time, with no conditions, marry me? I opened the box. Inside was a diamond ring I had designed myself. Flanking the main stone were 2 tiny, intricate carvings, a lazy cat and a playful dog, curled up together. Tears streamed down Maya's face like a river. She was laughing and crying at the same time as she nodded frantically. Yes, yes, Cole Grant, 100 times yes. I slid the ring on her finger, stood up, and pulled her into a fierce embrace. The fireworks boomed overhead. The carousel music swelled around us. My life of ultimate relaxation was officially over, because I had found something much, much better, holding my wife and relaxing with her for the rest of my life. The world is vast, and there are many beautiful things to see. But for me, the most beautiful view in the universe will always be the sparkle in her eyes when she looks at me, because in them, I can see my way home. And